Okay.
Oh, you can hear the music?
We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. It is Friday, and you know what that means. It is time for Ask the Experts. That's right. Whatever your question is, we want you to post it in here. Whether you're single, dating, in a committed courtship, engaged, or married, Couples Academy is the place where you can get the solution to your problem, the answer to your question. So come on, put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Don't wait till 2 minutes before the end of the show to get what you came to get. So my name is Hassani Pettiford.
I'm Lakeisha Hines.
And I'm Jeff Wade.
I need some energy, folks. We about to give these people life.
Getting the show started, man. You're gonna have it. You got it.
Guys, this is your day. There have been people from all over the world that have been reaching out recently, from Afghanistan, from Nigeria, from places all throughout Latin America. Listen, I tell you about the show. This is the place where you can come and get the answers that you're looking for. Really quickly, Last Chance Weekend is coming up. Second weekend in November. Calls are coming in. I'm excited about it. We're booking them. If you haven't secured your spot, please go ahead and do so. November the 11th through the 13th is the next one, and then December the 9th through the 11th. It's an opportunity for you to bring transformation to your life. Also, we have the Foundry Experience. We're excited about that. January the 20th through the 22nd. We're more than halfway full already, and we're yet still 3 months away. Don't mess up. See, what happens is procrastination could be the very thing that destroys your potential, that destroys your future. Overcome it. Just sign up today. Get what you need to get, because it's going to be an amazing way to start the new year off. All right, guys, we're going to dive into these questions. We got a lot. Lakeisha, could you lead us off with because sometimes my eyes and sometimes the way what it is.
Yes, listen, can I shout out the people?
Sure.
Hey, good morning, Ben, Faithful Ben. Hello, Derek. Team Smith is in the house. Hey, Black Butterfly. Just letter A. Okay. Hi, Darnell. Good to see you. So you want me to post one of these questions?
Actually, you know what? Let's jump to A. Let's start off with this particular question. I think it's a good one. How do I deal with my spouse not showing remorse anymore after a year after the affair? That's a very good question, because some would say, listen, I already did all of that. I mean, my God, we spent a whole year dealing with this. Can we just move on? Like, how much remorse do I need to show? Do I need to be sad every single day? Do I need to apologize every single day? How much can a brother take? How do you answer this question?
Well, for me, I think, what does remorse look like? How are you defining that? Because they may be showing remorse, but just not in the way that you desire to see it. And then what have you communicated in terms of what you need from your spouse on your journey toward healing and transformation? And what are you doing to heal yourself? What responsibility are you taking for your own healing and transformation? So I just think sometimes, we have expectations that have not been communicated to our spouses. And so we can't hold people responsible or accountable for things that they never knew were expectations. So that's where I would start.
Jeffrey?
Well, I think, we're all looking for happiness, right? And the problem is that we look for it in objects and beings and situations and circumstances. And if you're looking for your husband to show remorse so you can feel happy again, you won't find it there. What you will find is, if you look inside, happiness begins within. And that's a longer conversation, obviously, but happiness begins within. And if you can find that happiness, is he doing the things, if you were happy, is he doing the things that would complement your happiness and your well-being? That's a better scale and a better judgment call.
And as you both, if I can connect with you both, are saying it does require having conversations. I think oftentimes there is a disconnect between the one who's looking to receive the remorse and the one who's expected to offer it or to have a disposition or an attitude of remorse, because it looks differently or shows up differently for different people. And this is why we say it's important that you two have to have a working operational definition of what remorse is and how it needs to be shown. Some people truly feel it on the inside, but don't know how to communicate it or express it outwardly. It requires vulnerability. It requires a level of intimacy. It requires a level of communication that a lot of couples struggle with. And so if we're already struggling in all these other areas, then I'm tiptoeing, I'm very hesitant, I'm treading on water with anything that I do or anything that I say or any way they approach, because everything I've done is wrong. So it just really requires help. And if you're in that stuck place, sometimes bringing a third party in to kind of bring clarity and to connect the dots can really do it, because you could find out, wow, that was his way of showing remorse. I just didn't realize what it was. Or maybe he was showing it, but I was still stuck in all these other places that I couldn't receive it. So, there's a role that both must play in this process to get to a better place.
But how many times, though, guys, with the clients that we're working with, how many times does, one party say they should just know? Like, you should just know what you need to do. You should, like, I shouldn't have to tell you. You should just know. But that's a lie. That's not
Yeah.
realistic,
Yeah.
because some people don't know. And if you're not one of the Avengers, if you're not one of the Couples Academy team members, then you're not an expert in
Yeah.
infidelity recovery. So you don't know what you need to do.
That's a
And you
fact.
don't know what you don't need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so here's the funny piece about this, though, Lakeisha. Either you know or you don't know, right? So what about those partners who have have told their spouse continually and they still choose not to do? In those cases, yeah, you're right, they do know. But overwhelmingly, to your point, most don't know. And the way we all deal with pain and the way we all deal with crisis is completely different. Some people outwardly express, some people inwardly express, some people don't talk about it, they just move on and they are fix-it type, some other controller type. Like, there's so many different ways of dealing with things that's what causes the problem. You're spot on with what you're saying. Listen, there's a couple more questions and then we're going to get to Ben. My spouse lacks consistency, and every time I express it, he seems to go into shutdown stage, where his depression and anxiety gets the best of him. And every time we talk it out, it leads to him. And I think there's a part 2, which I don't see yet. So, Jeff, you want to jump in with that? Because this is something that we deal with in Foundry all the time, consistency or the lack thereof.
So consistency is the key. It's the key to a successful relationship, successful business, successful anything. It's consistency. But here's the problem. When we're addressing someone else's consistency and they haven't learned how to find what they're looking for, like they don't even know what they're looking for, the steps to go about being consistent, there's a lie somewhere inside he's telling himself. There's an expectation he set. I'm going to do this. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get this job. And that is being unfulfilled. And when that unfulfillment of a desire happens, what happens is that's where all the pain comes in. There's a desire that he has in his heart that he probably doesn't believe is even possible anymore. And he doesn't know how to get there. That's the depression and anxiety, the frustration with an expectation that's set and then not having the steps to get there. And so one of the things that we tell men in this particular position is that they need to find someone who has what they want and has been where they've been so that they can guide them. Now, that can come in the form of a real person, but it can also start in the form of books, so that you can familiarize yourself with what your expectations are. This is difficult because it's a process. Like getting a man to admit that he's been lying to himself and that's why he shows up funny. That's a very, very, very hard process. And he has to be walked through it step by step logically so that he gets it. It's one of the toughest things we deal with in Foundry. And I would tell you, like, hey, we can help with that. Just reach out. I do see the second part of the question there, questioning or denying the way I feel. I feel like my marriage is on the edge of another attack. Or is this just the infidelity trauma I suffered? I would say it's both. So I don't necessarily know that you're actually being attacked by him when he closes up. He has pain he does not know how to deal with. And he may not know, and you may not know how to show him how to deal with it. So like I said, it sounds like there needs to be some kind of third-party intervention. What say you?
Man, for me, the only question I have is how can you expect him to acknowledge and accept your feelings and emotions if he can't acknowledge and accept his own?
Exactly.
So that's my question. And then you talk about depression and anxiety. Is this diagnosed? Is he in treatment? Is he on medication? Because that can affect his ability to process and receive what it is that you're saying to him because he's in his own pit and he can't get out of it. So if he can't, deal with his own issues, it's going to be ridiculously difficult for him to help you to process and deal with your own.
Mm. Powerful answers, guys. Let's jump into Ben's. It says, "Good morning, from Tennessee." I'm not going to pull it up. As an unfaithful who has an emotional and physical affair, the vulnerability was communication had died in the marriage years prior. I'm used to communicating with the affair partner daily. I'm missing the connection. Currently, I'm working with a practitioner. How does communication get jump started without conveying everything is okay? I'm studying peaceful protest versus silent treatment. I'm tired of being mad until she gets it, but also want to convey importance of issues. I was silently complacent for too long. Also, as a personal trainer, fitness is never discussed. Train together. I mean, these are like notes. And then it says, Jeff, I see you saving for Foundry. I do work around the house. I was a single dad who fought for custody, not status quo. I want you kind of both to weigh in on Ben. Lakeisha, can we start off with you? Oh, right. Thank you. Lakeisha, the homework you gave was fire for remorse communication.
So, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to yield to the men in the room because this is my client and he's heard my voice multiple times. So, I'm going to default to you all to let him get some perspective from a man because I've told him multiple times what he needs to do. So, maybe you guys have a different perspective from Mr. Ben.
Ben, since you're saving for Foundry, I'm just going to go on and give you your first assignment. I want you to knock it out in the next week. Okay? So we're going to act as if you're in Foundry already. I want you to read the book, What Radical Husbands Do. What Radical Husbands Do. That's going to be your first assignment anyway when you jump in the course. We have another book that we want you to read, but I want you to read that. And I don't want you to make another comment on this show until you finish that book.
Mm. And let me just say, What Radical Husbands Do is a phenomenal book. It's in my top 10. It's a very short read. And sometimes you think, oh, it's short. I'll get through this. Next. And the reality is with certain books, you want to read them again and again and again because repetition is the mother of all learning. I'd rather read one book 10 times than 10 different books one time because it's easy in, easy out, and it doesn't sink in. And what I would tell you is that book will guide you through a specific process that will walk you in a place of healing, restoration with your spouse, and it will give you insight on what marriage is and on your wife that you may not currently have. Most of our decisions are based upon a deeply embedded belief system that oftentimes does not serve us. So this allows you to
work.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't help it. I got to say something. Ben, be the change you want to see. And that's it. That's all I got for you right now. Be the change you want to see.
Ben, I'm going to go on and give you also, look, forget the art of war. The art of war, you're not at war. You don't want to be at war with your wife. You don't want to use those tactics with your wife. I just saw him say that. It's his most read book. Put art of war away. We'll deal with that when we get the marriage straight.
That's the problem.
I know, that's the problem. Look, read What Radical Husbands Do. That's your first assignment. Don't comment in here again until you get it done. And then as far as getting communication to where you can get her to see things your way and act in your way, first, read Radical Husbands Do and then do those things. Second thing, read Open Her so that you learn how to communicate with a woman much, much better.
Third thing, cut your soul ties from your affair partner.
Absolutely. Kill that. You got to kill that because you're never going to make progress until you do that. Burn all the ships. That's in What Radical Husbands Do.
And let me tell you something. You were just given three specific tasks. What Radical Husbands Do, Open Her, 2 phenomenal books, and to cut your affair partner ties. So then, now my question is, how teachable are you? Right? So we can continue to talk about the same problems. We can continue to harp on all that is wrong. But what are you doing? How teachable are you? How coachable are you? Will you do what is instructed to get the change that you're looking for, or will you continue to do the same things but complain about it? That's insanity. And I know, Ben, you're not insane. I know you want more. It requires that you do more. Listen, guys, you're watching the Couples Academy show. This is Ask the Experts. We'll be right back to answer more of your questions. Let's go to this quick commercial break. And in the meantime, put more questions in the chat so that we can respond to them on the other side of this break. Stay right there. Hey, everybody. My name is Hassani Pettiford.
And I'm Danielle Pettiford, and we are the co-founders of Couples Academy, and we cannot wait to join you all the way in Lagos, Nigeria.
Yes, for the International Family Life Practitioners Conference. Listen, it's going to be happening on October 20th and 21st at 9 a.m. It's going to be at the David Christian Center. So make sure you show up. If you're a therapist, a practitioner, a coach, if you're anywhere in the marriage space and you want to take your business and your ministry to the next level, be there. When 45 men from all walks of life come together in one place for one purpose, there is a collective harmony that produces an amplification of power that leaves an impact on the lives of men that cannot be erased. A fraternity of legendary men, all at the tipping point, on the precipice of greatness, meeting for one weekend to turn their worlds inside out. For the first time ever, the Foundry Experience. Not an event, not a seminar or retreat, but an opportunity to come face to face with the man you were always destined to be. If you want a life that's better than the one that you are living, meet us January 2023 for the Foundry Experience. Hey guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. We're answering your questions today. We're going to dive right in. Lakeisha, let's start us off.
Hey, so Aubrielle, Miss Thompson, she was talking about her husband lacking consistency, and every time she tried to address it with him, he shut down. And one of the Avengers is actually in the feed today. He's in the chat, Mr. Walter Jennings in the house, and he said part of his shutdown may be his frustration with himself. He wants to be consistent, but needs to get unblocked. Foundry would be an excellent resource for him. And then Aubrey wanted to know, is Foundry for members only? Because somehow somebody misinformed Aubrielle, and told her that it's for members only.
Well, no, that's true. It's for members only. Let me just say, every male who's on the Couples Academy team has been through Foundry. Every male who has gone through a recovery process, who's realized that, you know what, we've worked on the marriage, but there's some things within me that need to change and transform, has been through Foundry. Foundry is an opportunity for him to become his best self. There's a question further below that I want to tie into this, and it comes from Kimberly. And she asked a question. She says, how do I get my husband stop? I'm not even going to read the rest of it. You can't. You can't get your husband to do anything. How do I get him to be a proactive thinker? A lot of his learning comes after the fact. By then, he's having to apologize and say, oh, I've handled things differently. By then, I'm already hurt. You can't get him to do anything. And I think that's a part of the ongoing struggle that we have with each other. Can Willie get you to do anything? Like, he can't make you do what you're not making a decision to do. Jeff, your wife, she can't make you do what you haven't made a decision to do. It is an internal decision that one has to make within themselves on their own. Now, there's things that we can do to help motivate. There's an environment that is conducive for change. But in essence, I think this is the struggle. And this is why a spouse feels controlled and manipulated and the other one's frustrated and can't take it anymore, because we're trying to fix and change and tweak and rearrange how our spouse shows up. And let me tell you something, men oftentimes when they are around other men, we were just talking about this before we started the show, there's this deeply embedded belief that we have about women, about gender, about relationships, about life that does not serve us. And when they get in the right environment and they have 3 months, 12 weeks to truly unpack these things, they come out different. And so I would encourage you to sign up. It is for members only. People have tried to go to the website and book sessions, Foundry sessions, and they just can't unless they're a member. So I would highly recommend you do so.
Become a member?
All
What'd
you
you
have
say?
to do is reach out. You
Can
call.
anyone become a member?
Any human being with a penis and a pulse can become a member of Foundry.
Now here's the deal, though. I want to mention just two things. The first thing is everyone always talks about mansplaining. I completely agree. Mansplaining is absolutely horrific. No man can actually tell a woman how to be a woman. But I'm going to also say that there's something that I see all the time. Men just don't address it and call it out. There's something called womansplaining, where they try to tell their man how they're supposed to act, what they're supposed to be, and usually it's stuff we know we're supposed to do, but because we're receiving it from you in a particular way, we're going to be hard-headed and knuckleheaded and go about it the wrong way. So I'm going to just say this. The second part of this is just simple. There's a lot of things that men try to do with their wives, where they're trying to force their wives to be ambitious or read or do this or do that or vice versa, that should be done with other men. And they never learned how to properly communicate with other men because they don't even know what manhood is. It's not taught anymore. And then I'm just saying, there are things that are specifically men with men. My wife is not into all the same things that I'm into. And I used to try to force her to get into those and would just cause clashes and fights. Right? There were things that when I discovered that I could get along with men and that there was a brotherhood that you could create, my wife is just happy to see me go hang out with the fellas. She's happy because she knows what I'm doing with those fellas is positive, encouraging, and uplifting. And I used to try to force those things on her, but they just didn't fit her interests. Just like she's never going to get me to do hair and learn how to do makeup and do all of those things. I'm not going to sit there and do those things. There's a lot of things that men should be doing with other men. And sometimes women explain to men the same way men try to explain to women in a bad way what a man should be doing. And really, it comes from the bros.
I just want to answer your question, Hassani. If you watch SOS, yes, Willie can get me to do things.
Well, that's the one way that always works in that space. SOS, for those who don't know, is saving our sex lives. And Lakeisha does a phenomenal job every single week walking people through what sex should look like in your marriage. Listen, it's the world has given us this idea that if you're single and you're having sex, it's passionate and fun and wonderful. But once you get married, it's dull and boring and who cares? And no, she helps you to revive the passion back in that bedroom, because guess what? It doesn't fix all, but it certainly will help motivate other areas in the relationship that need to be restored.
Facts.
There's a great question in here. My question is why the cheater always blames their spouse for the affair and they never talk to their partners about their problems.
Sometimes they have tried to talk about the problems and maybe you just weren't open and receptive to receive. That's not always the case, but sometimes that does happen where they've been trying to communicate, but because of your own hurt, pain, or whatever else you may be dealing with, you weren't open to receive and you couldn't hear yet. Also, a lot of times when that happens, it's because they can't see themselves. And that's one of the biggest things that we work so hard as practitioners to get not only the betrayer to see themselves, but the betrayed to see themselves as well, because there's no perfect person on this planet. So that means that we all have areas of opportunity.
Let's go to another comment. Derek says, my wife admitted she's not doing the work. I've been doing the work. She's stuck in an angry place and constantly throwing everything I did in my face, but at the same time telling me I'm not showing up.
Okay, so here's the deal, and Derek, I know you. So here's the deal. A lot of times we're doing the work, quote unquote, but it's not being received. I got news for you. If it doesn't work, it's not the work. So I'm going to give you two pieces of assignment. I'm going to have you read the exact same books. One, What Radical Husbands Do, and then you take and checklist all the things he tells you and those steps that he gives you that you're doing. And if you're doing all of those, then we got to work on communication. Open her, because you need to figure out a way that she receives it. See, communication is not one way. I'm sending a signal. I need a receiver, transmitter. I need a receiver to be tuned to the same frequency. And so if you're not tuned to her frequency, you're sending out signals, but it's not being received. So you need to get in tune with your spouse.
Absolutely. Lakeisha, I want you to answer this question. This is a great one. It's been 7 months since D-Day. We are healing well. However, I can't help but feel emotional now knowing it's going to be the time of year where he started the affair last year. Getting through the holidays is going to be so hard. Any tips to keep moving forward and not get stuck in these thoughts?
Hey, Amanda. So 7 months, that's still fresh, sis. Like, that's not, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of time as it pertains to infidelity recovery. Um, but that's not to say that you couldn't be further along if you had been doing certain things along the way. So I don't know what you guys have been doing. I don't know what you've done to heal from dealing with infidelity, and also you're coming up on your 1 year anniversary, and I think everybody struggles with that, coming up on that 1 year anniversary. So how do you keep moving and not get stuck? Make a choice. Decide that you're not going to get stuck. Make a decision that you are going to move forward. Create new memories. You know, that 1 year anniversary, you get to decide whether or not it's going to be a celebration or if it's going to be devastation. You get to decide. So make up your mind right now. You know the anniversary is coming. Make up your mind right now that you're not going to allow D Day to create these emotions and put you in this funk. It's like you're already preparing yourself for being in this dark place. So make a decision that you're not going to allow that to happen. You got to feel the feelings. It's going to come up for sure, but it's what you do with them when they come up. You get to decide again if you're going to allow it to consume you in a negative way, or if you're going to let it come up, process it, deal with it, and then move forward. But you got to work on creating some new memories with each other.
Excellent answer. Let's jump to the next question. I want you to start off, Lakeisha, and then Jeff, you could take over. Do you have a top 3 reading list for women? I deal with anxiety about my partner's infidelity, lack of trust. The wall is up, and I express resentment. I'm stuck. So, whatever books you two recommend, I certainly have one in mind.
Well, I mean, there is one that I would love for you to get, but you got to join Unearthed to get it. So you definitely need to get that book. You need to join Unearthed. But I love reading books about how, and I don't have a specific one. I can't remember the name of it right now. It's on my bookshelf. Maybe I'll grab it and put it in a post. But it's really about, I think it's like 100 ways to please your husband.
Mm-hmm.
This is my focus, you guys. It's all, take the focus off of yourself. While you are so busy focusing on yourself, you're not thinking about how you may be showing up in a relationship or how you have showed up in a relationship because you're so stuck in your hurt and pain. So for me, I really chose to start looking outwardly and how my behavior impacted my husband and how I wasn't showing up, because when people are not receiving me or responding to me in the way in which I desire them to, I look at me first. You know, I ask the question, why? What is it that I may have done that contributed to getting this response? So you guys are the book gurus, so I'll let you give the specific books.
I just happen to have this book right here. If you could see this, guys, but this is entitled Anxiety in Relationships. You say you're dealing with anxiety. How anxiety ruins relationships and why you need to stop feeling insecure and attached in love. Learn to identify irrational behaviors that trigger anxiety with practical strategies right now. That's a very long subtitle, but it really clarifies the book. Anxiety in Relationships by Levin Tatkin. Just Google anxiety in relationships or just put it into Amazon. It'll come up. It's a red book. This is what it looks like. And it's really, really, really good. It first starts off by telling you what anxiety is, what happens inside your mind, inside your body, what you begin to experience, and then it puts it in the context of relationships. And the reality is, yes, there are things that your spouse may have done that has created the anxiety, but the reality is also that you may have come into the relationship with anxiety and things of that nature. So it talks to you and walks you through how to get to a place of healing and restoration. Anything from you, Jeff, in terms of a book?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend Inner Engineering by Sadhguru, because obviously there are things happening inside of you that you do not have control over, right? And so, the whole world could be in perfect alignment. Everything could be going well with the world. No explosions outside, no storms, no anything. And yet one bad thought enters your head and the whole world is falling apart. There's a problem with that. So what we need to do is learn how to control our thoughts and choose which thoughts we connect to our emotions. So when a negative thought is, we need to be able to push it away. Inner Engineering is a great book on how to construct that whole mind, emotion, and body connection.
Powerful book. Sadhguru is just incredible. I mean, just one little dose of him, you're like, he cracks your brain right open and just begins to just impact you in an extraordinary way. We have a lot of questions. And Shelby says, hey, how can I get my husband to trust me again? Every time he goes to work, he thinks I'm doing something when I ain't doing nothing. How can we move forward from the past stuff? Well, I guess my question would be, have you, number one, gone through any type of recovery process? If you have not gone through a recovery process, simply trusting you can seem impossible. We say this all the time, that a person can make a decision to trust, but trust is gained over a period of time. And it comes back to that word consistency. When I continue to show up the right way over a period of time, your partner begins to trust you, because right now they don't trust anything about you. But if we could place you in the system of accountability, I trust the system, I don't trust you. But as long as you're in the system of accountability, I'm good. And then I got to monitor your behaviors, right? I'm going to trust that you're going to continue to do the wrong thing by observing your behaviors. Or I'm going to trust that you're going to continue to do the right thing. Why? Not by what you say, but by observing your behaviors. And seeing that consistency allows me to begin to restore trust. Then the other thing is, are you living a transparent life? Are you clandestine? Are you secret? Do you compartmentalize? Do you not open up? Are you not an open book? Like, there's got to be current honesty, which is one of the components of radical honesty. And when those things are in place, trust will begin to be restored. But don't expect it to be an overnight thing. It does not happen like that. So I hope that helps. Let's go to another question. Chris says, I don't know if I can work it out or cut my losses. She lies about a guy at her job, lied about the gym, just lied about everything. How do you deal with that? I feel stupid staying.
You guys need to get some help, and you need to get help immediately. Gosh, I wish every client that I had, I could catch them at this stage, because usually when we get you, you've already been through months and months, sometimes years of dealing with hurt and pain and the devastation of infidelity. So we're trying to get through all of that before we can even get to what the precursor issues were. So, like, this is such a critical time. And I just reach out, contact us, see if she's willing to get in front of someone, bring in a third party so you guys can get the help that you need.
Thank you so much. Shelby says, and do you all do a virtual Foundry, or do you have to be in person? Yeah, our programs primarily are all virtual. unless we're doing like a last chance weekend or a private marriage intensive, which is in person. Our weekly counseling sessions are virtual. Our Foundry experience is virtual. Our Unearthed experience is virtual. Our half-day solutions, one-day intensives, primarily everything is virtual, except when we're having a retreat. So our Foundry retreat, which we happen in January, that is in person. So you could be anywhere around the world. We have people in Australia. We have people in Europe. We have people in Africa who are part of our Foundry organization. So I hope that helps and gives clarity. And the link can be found in the description of this video. So please click on it to get more information and sign up today.
Hey, so I just wanted to respond to Kimberly. She said, as the wife, I've read Open Her and What Radical Husbands Do just to get an understanding from a male perspective so that we both can grow. What? This is amazing. Can she get a bomb? Can she get a microphone drop? I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I was saying. Literally, man, that's exactly what I was talking about. It's not that you're not hurt. It's not that you don't have pain. It's not that you haven't, your husband hasn't done things to you or your spouse hasn't done things to you to hurt you. But it's take control of the things that you can control. And the only person you can control is you. I love it.
Yeah. And let me just say this. Open Her is actually written by a woman.
Of
And
course
so
it is.
men are getting a woman's perspective
Hmm.
on what other because the reality is, yeah, Danielle, yeah, I know, yeah. But then when I read it in a book and I'm like, oh, see, understanding your wife can happen when you begin to understand women. Right? So I say this all the time, like when Jeff, you can relate to this. In the corporate world, how do you be successful? They say study your industry, study your company, and then study your product or your service, right? Industry, company, product or service. In the realm of what we do, study relationships, study the opposite sex gender, and then study your spouse. So I have a general idea of what relationships are like. Now I really understand what women are like, which gives me a better perspective on my wife, right? And so that book, Open Her, I tell you, man, it is phenomenal. It is phenomenal. And so I love the idea that you read it too. I'd encourage people to read these books together. I say to men all the time, listen, don't hide. Don't grow in the dark. Don't transform your life separate from your spouse. Like, let her know. Share with her what you're reading. Give her your insight because it begins to rebuild the trust process as well. Because the question often is, what are they doing in this Foundry group? And are they really doing the work? And does it have anything to do with our marriage? And, when you begin to open up and be transparent, you'll realize, man, this is exactly where my spouse needs to be.
Absolutely.
Another question? Oh, here's a good question, man.
Yeah.
What can you advise men when it comes to their self-esteem? Because this is one of the issues that I'm dealing with in addition to my trust issues after my partner's affair. Thanks.
So this whole knowledge of self stuff, where we're actually trying to figure out our own self-confidence, being okay with you. When you're dealing with self-esteem issues, it's because you've been trying to live up to someone else's standards the whole entire time, and you stop dreaming. You stop creating a vision for yourself. You've just decided to go along to get along.
Yep.
Aristotle said in Nicomachean Ethics that happiness is when you are able to achieve the intellectual pursuits of the mind. Meaning what you've created in your mind, you're actually seeing it come into reality. So when you've stopped creating something for you as a vision, right? And you stop chasing that, and now you're trying to live up to everyone else's standards, and the goalposts are always moving when you're trying to live up to someone else's standards. What ends up happening is you will always have this problem with being unfulfilled. So you have a desire to chase something external. When it's fulfilled, you become greedy about it. I want more, I want more, I want more. If it becomes unfulfilled, you become angry, sad, depressed, frustrated. But that's because your attachment is to something external. When you learn to attach yourself to being satisfied with you internally, that means having a higher level of knowledge, having a higher level of desire to create goodness all around you. and having a higher mind towards God. Those three things, when you put your mind to those are all infinite, eternal, and never run out, and the goalpost never changes. And when you attach yourself to those things, you can find fulfillment. And then in that space, you'll be able to create all those external things that you always wanted to desire as well.
Powerful answer. I hope that really helps and resonates, and it's something that I think we all can glean from. Here's a great question. The question is, how do you find the right marriage counselor or therapist? I'm not going to lie. That TikTok therapist got me feeling some kind of way given my situation. Not sure who the TikTok therapist is, so I can't really speak to that. But how do you find? I'll let you both weigh in. I have an answer for him, that can help him find the right type of therapist or marriage counselor for him, because I think that's a phenomenal question, and I really wish people gave more thought to that before choosing who they worked with. Lakeisha, then Jeff, and then I'll answer to that.
Yeah, so what do you value? Like what's most important to you? I can tell you for me, I needed someone who was well versed in the word of God. I needed a believer because, both my husband and I are both believers, and so that was something that was extremely important to me. I wanted someone who I could identify with culturally. That was important. Also, at one point, I wanted a male because I believe in counseling. I believe in therapy. I mean, it's what I do. So I believe in it. And for the longest time, throughout our years of knowing each other, we've gone to counseling and it's primarily been women. So at a season in our life, I was really focused on getting a black male because I wanted my husband to make sure that there was someone there who could really understand things from his perspective. So it really depends on like what season you're in your relationship and what you value and what's most important to you. But ultimately, I wanted somebody who had been through what I've been through. Like that was critically important to me. So I think it's what you value and what's most important to you.
All right. So, Chris, I'm going to summarize all of what Lakeisha said into one thing, which is the first principle and first rule in Foundry. Who do I listen to? I listen to people that have what I want and have been where I've been. So the first thing that I would look for in a counselor is make sure they actually have a relationship that's functional. I don't know how many of these counselors on TikTok and YouTube and all the other ones from Kevin. I know he's passed. I'm gonna let that one be because he's passed from us. But these men that I keep seeing on TikTok don't have successful relationships where their wives will get on and tell you in 5 seconds that they're happy too. So that's the first thing I'd look for. The second thing I'd look for is that they'd actually been in a situation similar to mine. Okay? If you have those two things, then they can show you how to get out. If they don't have those two things, then they can't show you how to get out. The problem with this world is that seems like it's common sense. But if you look at it, we got people teaching business college who've never owned a business. Right? I think the only field that you can't get away with that in is like being a chef. You can't teach people how to cook if you've never cooked before.
Oh, in the medical field.
Anything else.
In the medical field.
There's almost anything else. You have to have done it. Okay? So like what I want you to do is just find someone who has what you want and been where you've been. And that should be part of your interview. Don't be shy. I'm hard on my doctors. I'm hard on my lawyers. I don't get him just because he has a degree on the wall. I want to see how many cases you won. Have you won this type of case before? Tell me about that case. Hold them accountable. Let them tell you about this situation. That's how you interview a counselor.
Oh, you said interview a counselor. So
I interviewed the counselor. He said that's doing for you. It's a position for you. You're paying him. Interview me. Interview Hassani. We're up for that task. We know that we've done it.
That's exactly right. So, and I've mentioned this before when Danielle and I saw the counselor. The very first question out of my mouth was, before we get started, how's your marriage?
Okay.
And the first thing he said was, well, which one? I've been married 3 times. That was the end. There was nothing else to talk about. And so, rule number 1, what they're both speaking to is absolutely right. You listen to people who have what you want and have been where you've been, period. Right? So, yes, degrees, licenses, certifications, all those things are very important because you want to make sure that you're talking to somebody who's qualified and has knowledge and expertise, but also experience combined, I think is phenomenal. And this is why we're very selective on who we bring on to our team. And so every person, every practitioner that we have has a combination of those two, right? They have the competency in terms of knowledge and they have the experience to guide you through the process. So I'll just end. Oh, okay. We have another question. Go ahead.
No, Walter said, check the fruit. It's important to do your due diligence and vet any service or resource you're thinking about securing.
Yeah, why isn't Walter on this show right now? What's
Man,
going on?
where you
I don't
at, Wally?
understand it.
Where you at?
But to give you if you're looking for a counselor, somebody who can help you in your situation, take a look at this. So I hope that helps and gives you an answer. Just go to our website, couplesacademy.org, or simply download the app if you have not already, and you can access all of our practitioners. You can read on their stories. You can find out a little bit more about them, set up a discovery call, get to know them, because I think it will be able to help you in terms of who to select. And guess what? We're here every single day. You're dating us just by tuning in. You're getting an idea of our philosophy, what we think, how we navigate through things, our methodology. And so that's what I would say. Don't just scroll through. I was about to say yellow pages, as if those exist anymore. Don't just scroll through a website and just randomly pick somebody. Get to know them. And that's why we do this show. All right, we have a couple more questions. So thank you for your patience and hanging out with us today. Sean says, good morning. When you all have the time to take care of your family and make time, when do you all have the time to take care of your family and make time for an affair? Also go to work and do other activities. The last thing a betrayed spouse wants to hear is, I have a lot, going on. Makes me feel not worth the work. I understand it's not fun like an affair may be, but definitely not fun for me at all. Yes, please speak to that.
Man, Sean, thank you so much for this comment because honestly, there's so many couples who go through this exact same thing
Yeah.
and feel this like this. Man, I've heard this so many times. I'm sure you guys have as well. But we make time for the things that are important to us. We make time, we make space, we create space for the things that matter and the things that we value. So stress is so funny because I remember having a conversation with actually one of my clients the other day, and I was reflecting on something that happened years ago in my marriage. My husband literally used to drive home, park in the driveway, and just sit there. Just sit there. He didn't come
Sean,
into.
did you hear that?
He would drive home, sit in the driveway in the car like he just needed to get his mind right before he came in the house because he knew as soon as he opened the door, all hell was breaking loose on the other side of the door. There were kids swinging from the rafters. I was on a tyrant. Like it was crazy. There was so much going on. And we have 4 children. Okay. One of them has special needs. So he never knew like what type of day I had and what wavelength, what type of vibe or energy I was going to be putting out, what was going on with those kids. Like, and then he got real smart. He would start calling on the way home, like, do you need anything? No, I'm good. I don't need anything. But he would stay on the phone and just continue conversation because he was trying to feel my energy. so that he could mentally and emotionally prepare himself for whatever he was going to have to deal with when he got there. That's on me. I got to adjust that. I have to create a space that is welcoming, that's warm, nurturing, and inviting to make this man want to come home. So I'm complaining about why does it take you so long to get home, and why do you sit in the driveway, and la, 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 and all this stuff. But it should be a soft place for him to land. It should be his sanctuary. He should feel like when he opens the door that he just hears the angels singing. Now, is it always going to be that way? No, because we have children, and we had a child with special needs who might be throwing a tantrum 2 hours before he got there. And I'm on 10 because I just finished restraining my child for 2 hours. So it's not always going to be that way, but the consistent energy should be a place of calm and peace, and he should feel serenity being able to come into our home. So,
Sean, she don't know your situation, but I do. That should have hit a chord. So I'm going to tell you this, Sean. You need to reach out to Lakeisha. You do, and you need to tell your husband to get in Foundry.
and let me say this too. Let me say, because this just came up for me. I'm going to say this to you too. When you are engaged in an affair, right? The other person, especially if it is a woman, the husband who's cheating with another woman, that affair partner, it is her mission, it is her job, it is her goal to make her home be everything that your home is not. So it's gonna smell good. It's gonna be clean. She gonna be smelling good. She's gonna be looking good. She's gonna feed him and rub on him and massage him and listen to him and make him feel like he's a king, and everything that you refuse to do, she's gonna make sure that she does it. So that's her goal and her mission, to make him feel the complete opposite of how he feels with you, physically, mentally, emotionally,
Mm,
spiritually, in every way.
Hard facts.
it's the truth.
And the
Wow.
Jezebel spirit is still
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why it's really so hard to compare an affair to a committed relationship.
Yep.
Because if you think about your committed relationship, what is experienced in the affair with another person, you experience with your spouse at the very beginning of your relationship, because that's when we put our best foot forward. We're looking our best, smelling our best, one in the woo, one in the, all these type of things. And then normalcy sets in, predictability sets in, kids, work, responsibilities, just all of those things set in, and things aren't fresh and new and passionate anymore. And then the affair partner comes along and is able to woo and do all types of things that we used to do. So what you're saying is true.
I get unfiltered, Hassani. I get unfiltered. I'm gonna try to contain myself.
This is the
Here's
place
the
to do it. I
Here's
don't want you filtered. I don't want
here's
you
the
filtered.
situation, Sean. Like, for real, sis. This is it, right? She don't have to deal with his dirty draws. Like, she don't have to deal with his attitude. She don't have to deal with paying bills and the stress that comes with dealing with kids. And she doesn't know the ugly side of him. She only sees the good side of him. And to Hassani's point, the one that he used to be at the beginning of your marriage, before you guys were all stressed out and had all this stuff going on, communication breakdowns and all this type of stuff, like, she doesn't have to deal with any of that. You get the good, the bad, the ugly, just like your husband does. So the affair partner, of course, is more exciting and it's more fun over there because they don't have no bills and responsibilities and all of these things that you have to do. And factually, like I said, the affair partner typically shows out in the bedroom. They will show all the way out. Most times there are no restrictions. Whatever you want to do, I'm down. I got it. Whatever you want to do, yes. Whatever you like Coming to America, whatever you like. That's typically what it is with the affair partner. So I'm just saying.
I want to put a challenge out there. This is for the men and the women. I want to put a challenge out there that's really simple. Let's try over the next week, 2 weeks, to just, for the women, if you're out in the work field, let's make our spouses enjoy our coming home. If you're at home, let's make the home someplace he wants to come home to. Let's design, let's live life by design, as Hassani always says, and not default. Let's start creating an environment that people want to come home to. And, someone wants to be excited when you're the one coming home. Doesn't matter whether you're the male or the female in this situation. What would that look like? Let's get a picture of that in our minds, and then let's just try to create it for a couple of weeks. I'm telling you, you're going to notice at first, you might get a couple funny looks like, what are you doing? But after a while of doing something consistently, you're going to see the environment will change. Now, here's the kicker to that. If you can pull this off successfully and be consistent, you won't need Hassani, Keisha, or me, or anybody for that matter. Because you're no longer thinking about yourself. You're really thinking about what's best for the relationship.
Challenge, who's going to do it? Let's go to the next question. Darnell, this is the 3-parter. This came in a little bit earlier. How do I deal with knowing I'm doing everything I possibly can to make things right, but it's not getting nowhere? And also, how can I deal with the constantly being harassed about cheating and lying when I'm not, and God knows I'm not, and my spouse keeps treating me like I am based off of an assumption, and I'm doing everything possible to show her I'm not, but nothing is working. And for the past 3 days, I've gotten increasingly worse to the point where I'm feeling completely worthless. Well, this I think requires some backstory. Sometimes questions come in and we have questions about the questions, like, okay, so she thinks that you're cheating. First question I'm going to ask is why? Where does this come from? Has there been any type of infidelity or betrayal in the past? Is she haunted by the ghosts of the past and assuming you're still doing what you used to do? Have you never cheated? She was the cheater and now her conscience is bothering her. So if I did it, you must be doing it. Like, there's stuff I need to know to be able to properly give you an answer. I was on a Instagram live yesterday with a pastor in Nigeria. I'm going there next week. There's about 400 people on this Instagram live, and a question came in, and I said, I think it would be irresponsible for me to answer this question because the way I would answer it for one couple may be different than how I answer it for another. And so though there are general guiding principles, there are situational things and relational dynamics and backstory that may affect how we answer certain questions. So I have more questions than answers, but you two feel free to weigh in however you choose.
I noticed one thing that set me off right as soon as I am doing everything I possibly can. And I want to let you know the arrogance of that. Seriously. I'm going to pause there. I want you to understand the arrogance of that. Because you're doing everything you know to do. I believe that. But everything you possibly can, I don't believe that. And the reason why is that doesn't leave room for the most important thing a man can say to himself in a situation like this is, I do not know how to do this. I do not know how to make it right. And when you can admit that, that's where the help can begin. Because that's when you have room for rule 1. Who do I listen to? People that have what I want and been where I've been. So I'm going to ask you, who are you listening to? Second of all, you say you want this. I want to know, what is your willingness to learn? What is your willingness to accept change? And what is your willingness to put in the time, money, and effort? These are 2 founding principles inside of Foundry. And if you have that, then you can actually say you want it. If you're willing to do those 3 things, you can actually say you want it. And within that, you're leaving space for learning. And if you leave space for learning, the way that you're doing doesn't work. But that doesn't mean that no way works. Because plenty of people have turned this thing around. I'm an example of it.
Lakeisha, I think you're muted. You may want to unmute.
Sorry about that. Sometimes we rely on our own knowledge and on our own strength to try to get through infidelity recovery, and that's necessary, but it requires so much more. And I don't know what you guys have done previously to try to work on this or to try to heal from it, but you're being harassed and constantly accused because she still doesn't trust you. Mm-hmm. And what have you done to restore trust, to regain that trust? Have you guys put boundaries in place? Have you completely opened up your life to her, and just been completely transparent with your whereabouts and your movements and access to your phone and different things. So there's steps and things that we take our couples through to make sure that we create a solid foundation and that you have guardrails and boundaries in place, so that that can help to restore and rebuild that trust and that confidence. But she doesn't trust you. That's why you're still being accused. So
I think it all goes back to, and of course, you're going to hear us have this position because we know that it works. When you reach outside of yourself to get help, when you submit to someone else's wisdom, knowledge, and know how, when you connect with a third party who's qualified to guide you through a process, you can probably accomplish much more with the help of others than you can do on your own. Because to Jeff's point, you don't know what you don't know. You think you know, but you know all that you know. Even Albert Einstein says we're limited by our knowledge, right? We're limited by what we know. So if others have overcome their challenges by knowing other things, then maybe it means that you need to seek help and figure out what you're not doing right. But some people just don't like getting help. Some people don't like being told what to do. Some people just want to do it all on their own. They don't want to spend the money. I could use this money to other things. We just talked about how marriages fail after an affair. And oftentimes it's because of the refusal to get the help. That's what we were talking about yesterday. And we find that to be true in so many instances. One spouse wants it, the other one doesn't. One spouse is energetic and ready to jump in. The other spouse is hesitant and giving pause and have all these types of reservations. And it just keeps you in a stuck place. So if you want something different, you got to do something that you've never done before. I tell you, it's one of the best investments that you can make in your future. So guys, listen, we've gone for an hour. I appreciate you all for staying on. Lakeisha, Jeff, you do what you always do best. This is going to be the end of the show today, but I want you to have an amazing, amazing, amazing weekend. Love on your spouse. It's my wife's birthday this weekend, so I'm going to be busy. I got stuff to do. So listen, We'll see you Monday for another great episode. We're going to start a new series. Hope that you tune in. Tell your people about us, spread the word, join the community. And if you have any questions, reach out to us for a discovery call so we can figure out how to save your life. I did see somebody in there who said that they're excited that they're joining the Last Chance Weekend. We look forward to hearing from you and getting you guys registered. But until then, have a great weekend. See you on Monday. Take care.